We should ask Donald Trump. You talked about black men would be with you. Where's a black man being nominated by you for your cabinet? Has anyone noticed there's no black that has been nominated on his cabinet? That needs to be raised.
Reverend Al Sharpton criticizing President-elect Donald Trump for not nominating an African-American member for any cabinet position, I should say, yet. There are some spots to fill. Now, to be clear, he has picked some diverse candidates to be part of his overall team and also in his cabinet. But again, as of now, there's yet to be a black American picked for a cabinet-level slot. Joining me now, one of Trump's top allies on the Hill, Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida. Congressman, you have been a very vocal and effective surrogate for Trump and for his campaign and, frankly, the Republican Party. What is your response to this criticism?
I think it's criticism where people are upset that they still lost this election. And so if you were going to ask Reverend Al or anybody else in the Democrat Party, they're still licking their wounds about the fact that this did not work out the way that they thought it was going to. That being said, Donald Trump's cabinet is about people who are going to implement his agenda. And he's not done, by the way. You have Susie Wiles, the first woman ever to serve as chief of staff. You have Marco Rubio, a Cuban-American who's going to serve as Secretary of State, representing America across the globe when it comes to foreign policy. You have Tulsi Gabbard going to be at DNI. So many others that are coming, and there's still slots to be filled. So I think everybody needs to pump the brakes and just wait and see what happens.
Do you think Democrats are putting form over substance?
Absolutely. Look, even if you look at how the Democrats filled the Joe Biden cabinet, they wanted to have a piece of every identity, but did they get the job done? Did they actually serve the interest of the American people? Because here's what I know. Whether you black or Hispanic, if the border is unsecure, excuse me, Alejandro Mayorkas, if the border is unsecure, does that help people in their everyday lives? No, it does not. And so what Donald Trump's election is about is bringing competency and reality back to D.C. in the White House, making sure that the job gets done on behalf of the American people, regardless of their race, regardless of their religion, regardless of their creed.
Do you think that the current cabinet picks reflect the most competent implementers of Trump's policy across the board?
100%.
Because you have no pause for any of the people who are being raised, including some who are more controversial figures who've gotten a lot of the oxygen out of the room. Obviously, Matt Gaetz, a centerpiece of criticism because of the allegations. But you don't have any pause about anyone who's been chosen?
No, I don't, because either I know them directly or I've gotten a chance to know them throughout the last several months. All of them subscribe to everything that Donald Trump talked about on the campaign trail. They are mission-minded about getting the job done. Look at Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wants to make America healthy again. He wants to go after additives in our food that are here in the United States, but not in any other country around the globe. You have suburban mothers who want to see that happen for their children. You have people who've had to deal with all kind of other health abnormalities, and at the time, and now what they're dealing with is going to other doctors, finding other alternatives to address those health issues, finding out it's what they're ingesting every single day. He's going to address that. You have somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who has not been a fan of forever wars, which, by the way, if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you've not been a fan of forever wars. She's going to be advising him when it comes to national intelligence. These are the picks that he's put in who are going to actually help him implement his agenda. His success as president, this is the 47th president, is going to be on addressing all the concerns of the American people that obviously they had, because if they didn't have that, he wouldn't have the political mandate he's enjoying right now.
Well, let me ask you, because I remember when your name came up as a potential Speaker of the House. That's right. There were many who speculated that based on the prominent role you played in this campaign and election, that your name would have skyrocketed to at least the front of the line. We are several cabinet picks in. Are you not surprised that you have not been named? Have you had a conversation about being a part of the administration at all?
All I will say is I am not surprised that I have not been named, but that does not mean I'm not going to do other things in the future.
Has he asked you?
No, there's some other things that I'm looking at going forward.
Like?
I'm not going to talk about them now.
We do this every time.
We're not going to break news now,
I would like
Laura.
to ask you, Governor
We're not gonna break
of
news.
Florida, Senator, perhaps if Marco Rubio is confirmed, or any of those spots enticing to you?
We'll see what happens as things go forward.
Do you have support for the name Laura Trump that's been circling around as a potential person who would step in if Senator Marco Rubio were to ascend to the role that he has been chosen for?
So actually, I think Laura would do a great job as a U.S. Senator for Florida. I got a chance to really know her through the whole campaign process. Number one, excellent communicator, one of the best in our party. Number two, really knowledgeable about policy. Number three, her personal businesses that she's been involved with, different projects that she's done. She knows how to get things done, bring people around her to be successful. At the end of the day, you want to be a representative of the ideals of the state of Florida. Laura Trump is an example of that.
So just to be clear, and I remember the barbershops you had gone through, you talked to many black voters, black male voters specifically on the campaign trail. If the current trend stands and there is not a single black cabinet member named, you'd be fine with that?
What I want right now is for the agencies of the federal government to do their job and no more, and to actually fix the ills that have been going wrong in our country. The voters spoke loud and clear 2 weeks ago. This was an avalanche. This was a political mandate for Donald Trump. And it's very clear that they want our borders secured. They want a thriving economy. They want to be able to get out of these conflicts across the globe. And yes, people want to be energy dominant here in America. And if the cabinet picks help deliver the America First agenda that Donald Trump wants, this will be an unmitigated success. And every American will be happy with that.
I wonder if voters will see it the same way. I want to talk about this House Ethics Committee, though. They have not chosen to release the report that was compiled by the House Ethics Committee on former Congressman Matt Gaetz. Do you think the report should be released, if not publicly, to the Senate so that they can have in a fulsome review in their role to advise and consent?
Well, actually, no, I don't, and here's why. A couple of things. First of all, we all know Capitol Hill leaks like a sieve. If the Ethics Committee sends that report over to the Senate, you'll have some Senate staffers somewhere in some office will put it out, and that's frankly inappropriate because the rules of the House and frankly the rules of the Senate are clear on this. If you're no longer a member, those reports do not get released to anybody. That's number one. Number two, the FBI already looked into these allegations over 3 years. A long-running investigation, and there were leaks out of the Department of Justice during this investigation. But what did Merrick Garland's DOJ, or frankly, at that also when it started, Bill Barr's DOJ do? They didn't bring any charges. There were no charges here. So I think we got to be careful. Do we just want to be salacious because it's great to take somebody down or it's good for news headlines? Or are we going to make sure we're serious about making sure somebody like Matt Gaetz goes into the job of Attorney General to make sure that the DOJ is doing its job for the American people, not for the politicians here in Washington, D.C. That's what matters.
But the same could be true and the conclusion different, to suggest if the report is somehow baseless or it's based on unfounded allegations or is entirely critical of the Department of Justice, as has been alleged by Matt Gaetz and others, then that very argument and seeing the report could buttress his confirmation. Why not just see the report? It could be helpful to Republicans who want to confirm him.
Because I'm not going to be naive with you. We know the whole reason why some people are saying release it, release it, release it, mostly from the Democrat side of the aisle, because they're reeling because of the results of this election. Their party is massively divided on which direction they should go.
Republicans also want to see the report. Some have expressed that.
This is fair, but they're looking for a reason to get back on track. I understand that, but we have to be very careful with stuff like this. If we're just going to be throwing allegations around, a la Justice Kavanaugh, where allegations were just tossed around, they weren't confirmed, but they were out there. And then he went ahead and got confirmed by the U.S. Senate and now is serving as a duly appointed justice on the Supreme Court and doing a great job in that role. Are we now going to demonize people because of an allegation where the Department of Justice did not bring charges? They did investigate this for 3 years. And to be fair to Matt, the investigation went through. A lot of stuff was leaked about this investigation. No charges were brought forward. So then what are we talking about now? Because if you compare a potential AG in Matt Gaetz versus the current AG in Merrick Garland, we do know that Merrick Garland weaponized the Justice Department. No matter how anybody might feel about it, there was not an even application of the law with Merrick Garland as Attorney General. And
they, of course, vehemently disagree with that characterization.
They can disagree all they want, but they're wrong.
They do.
Not even just with dealing with Donald Trump. You have parents who were just trying to protest their schools being labeled as domestic terrorists by this same Department of Justice. The American people are done with that. They just want the institutions of our government to be even-handed and fair. Matt Gaetz will bring that.
We will see if the Senate, who will confirm will agree with you. We'll see what happens. Thank you so much for joining us. I see you on set this evening, Congressman Byron Donalds.